Started, just because we do tend to chit chat a bit and open the meeting at 6 o'clock and wonder if you would do roll call, please.
Clark Strickland.
Here.
Shannon Glazer.
Here.
Michael Davenport.
Here.
Alternate David Grimm.
Here.
Vice Chair Erica Duvick.
Here.
Chair Lisa Manifold.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, on our agenda initially, we have swearing in the alternate member, Patty Tyler. I would like to make an motion for agenda approval for May 19th and ask that we move the swearing in of Patty down to the end because I'm guessing she's struggling getting off work.
Like maybe 10A, should we title that?
Just like, I guess call it 11 and move it on.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
So move.
Someone all in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Perfect, thank you so much. All right. Is there any public comment today, Dylan, outside of our 2 hearings that we are doing?
The only people in the room are applicants, so I don't have anyone online, so no public comment.
I do have public comment actually. Just to say, do I need to swear in?
Well,
I wonder, or-
We should just call that general updates.
Okay. but
Unless
we-
it is
No,
a
it's
public
not,
comment.
it's general updates, that'll work. Ignore me then. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with our hearings this evening? All right, perfect. Approval of the minutes, I would take a motion to approve the minutes from March 17th.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Perfect, I would second that. Any discussion? No? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Perfect. All right, in general updates, I will now move what I was gonna say, that in city council at the May 11th meeting, Dylan did bring up in his city report that there is concern about keeping, I don't know if anybody saw that meeting seemed to get a lot more visibility than a lot of our meetings, about keeping the architectural flavor of the city. So with that, I am all for, if Dylan would like to do any more talking this summer, I would be willing to help with that because I think that really made a difference. And now that I'm seeing this concern and interest from the community, I am all for that. Like, that's how we're gonna get this moving towards preservation of everyone's home.
Well, and I think our priority that we've been talking about as part of comprehensive planning and all this is like a real focus on let's get people to list their homes and list neighborhoods and all of this. But, and I think when I talk to people, they're like, oh, that's such a great idea. I'd love to be a part of that, but then no one really is actually taking action. And I think there's a lot of fear from certain community members who are like, you should really just institute basic architectural guidelines for single family like we do for multifamily. And that's a very different sort of step, but might be worth getting public input on that over the summer while we're pushed for like actual designation.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, but didn't Carmen say if we changed architectural guidelines for the whole city, that brings it to a completely different, like, we're imposing restrictions on people that they did not vote on.
My understanding is that if we apply it to everyone evenly across the board as just a general amendment that affects everyone, it's fine, but we couldn't do it for like a 2-block buffer because that would impose it just on that small group of people. And so we could say, okay, well, you know, if you're building a single family home, then it needs to have XYZ features. I believe, and we'd have to confirm with Carmen that we could do that because it would apply to everyone. And that wouldn't stop someone from like knocking down their house, building a new house that meets those standards. But the fear I've heard recently is the idea of like those Denver big boxes that go up in neighborhoods that people want to avoid. And so they kind of say, well, is it worth, even if we lose the historic home that's not designated, is it worth still requiring that new homes that are brand new meet some level of standard that we come up with? So I think we could do it. We will just take some extra conversation because in these meetings we've talked about, let's really focus on getting people to preserve their historic homes.
Well, that would be my preference. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I mean, you know what my preference is.
Oh, we know.
Yeah,
I think it's worthwhile to get a sense of what the public thinks. And it may be there is substantial support for extending it to single family homes. But the important thing is to find out from the public first and not be blindsided with a regulation change.
Right.
Well, I would never want to do that because things like this work better when people are like, oh my God, yeah, let me preserve my house. Let me
Right.
like keep the uniqueness of my place going on.
And I think the city could do both, of course, right? We say, okay, some people just, there's no way they're ever going to designate their home. They don't want the regulation, it's perceived, like regulatory thing on them, but they're not going to care if you regulate the architecture of new homes because they're not going to build a new home either.
And you can do it to different levels. When Savannah adopted guidelines that were widely copied, they basically had a list of 12 things. And you were required to do 4 on the list that everyone had to do, and then you had to do at least 3 others. And that was their way of starting out with guidelines. Now they're way more strict than that now, but that was how they started.
That's kind of nice, because it like feels like people have more agency in the matter, they have a choice in it. And now that we have the field house apartments on the old Gold Digger Field, there's a very visceral reminder of what people could build. And so that may have changed minds from people who are like, I don't want any regulation at all. So, well, I guess some would be good.
And actually, when you talk about houses, there's about 3 main ones that are really important. And so that idea of the 4+3 is not a bad way to go, because the shape and size of the house, which are 2 of them, are the most important, because that has to do with also preserving the character of the neighborhood, even if they aren't historic buildings.
Has there been a bitter disappointment on the part of the property owner that a certificate of appropriateness be turned down, or conditions in this community?
There is one in the downtown historic district. You were not here for that. You were here for that. I believe you were here for that. Those windows are gonna be a hill that somebody dies on. If you recall,
Which building?
Mountain Prime,
You want to do like talk about
they wanted the garage windows.
Oh, the garage windows.
Like
And
it's
so,
pounded down.
I don't know if
Did-
any for
did-
residential.
Did that wind up getting approved?
It did, oh, no.
Well, actually, I had met with the owner. And he said, actually, the problem, I had actually shown him, here are several other ideas of what other cities have done with this. And he told me his problem was he couldn't get any contractor up here to even give him a bid. He said that was his problem. And when I spoke to him at least twice, maybe 3 times. But that was his problem the last time I talked to him, is he couldn't get anyone.
That was
to make
twenty
bid. He said-
twenty-one.
He said it was gonna be at least another 6 months before he could probably even find someone who would come.
so
Actually, there's 2 in the downtown area.
were people in town, did they think that the outcome was not proper in that case, or did they like what finally happened?
It depended on who you talked to, basically because westbound and down has a garage door in the
Right.
front, right on Minor Street. I don't think you were on the PRC then, because I wasn't when that was.
I was staff when the one came up with, that I was just talking about.
Not Mountain Prime, I mean with westbound and down, I think that was pre-2000, pre-2020.
That was way before my time,
Yeah.
yeah.
So people are still unhappy about that, and
That it happened?
that it was denied. It doesn't seem fair, to people when they're looking at it. And then what's the other one?
But then there's some
Right here on the
people
corner.
who are in favor of the denial because they agreed that it would change the historic facade of it, so.
So, and there hasn't been a concerted program of explaining to people exactly what the rules and regulations are and how complicated or not complicated it is, right? And testimony from people who've gone through and gotten approvals and so on, so.
Yeah,
We try, I know I try. Or I tried it,
Yeah,
I was like, we're not evil,
and the
I swear to
tables-
God, we're not evil.
But I wonder whether it's
But
this
I
is
think
an opportunity to if there's this interest to.
The impression that I get from people when I talk to them, because I'm very enthusiastic about it, so maybe that dampens some of their lack of enthusiasm. I mean, I freely admit that could be part of it, but is that people look at it as a regulation. It is a regulation, it is one more governmental organization telling me what I can't do with my home.
Yeah, that's true. Rather than being a tool that could open up opportunities for funding. Like I talked to a lady who has a home and she's, it would be great to have a historic district in my neighborhood, but I'm afraid that that means I can't replace my windows except for with something that's far too expensive for my budget. And you know,
Yeah.
some of that is maybe true in certain cases, but a lot of it seems like misconception.
Yeah, that can be made to work better. Windows actually have been nationally one of the biggest controversies, and that's
Right.
because there are people on both sides who don't want to give either way on that issue.
But isn't that one of the nice things about local? That's one of the things that I like hooked onto and have never let go of, is that with the local district, you can design what are the guidelines. Like it's not based on, if you're a national district, it has to be this. With a local district, I mean, there are local districts in Denver where the period of significance is like up to 1970. So that people that have had chain link fences for 60, 70 years don't have to replace their chain link fence. Like that's one of the things that I find appealing about a local district, is that you tailor it. You know, what we would do for East End would be very different what we would do for West End or even the central part of Idaho Springs.
Mhm.
I try to tell people that too, I don't know.
Well,
That
and
goes very
I
far.
mean, for one of the applicants on the agenda tonight, you know, right now, the Zion Lutheran Church just has to follow our guidelines. Or just general, but if we were able to get a few properties together to create a neighborhood district in that area, it could have some uniqueness to that neighborhood, which could be beneficial for everyone in that neighborhood.
The sense that the discussion started with, that there's a real interest in seeing the architectural quality of Idaho Springs preserved. That's the strength, that's the preservation of the community as a whole, that balanced against when the individual thinks, well, what am I gonna do with my porch and my windows and, you know, all the rest of that. But that, working with that good solid sense of this place is, really needs to be preserved, well, that's a series of individual decisions, and that's what the process wants to take a look at, the review process. So maybe there's, if the ball's rolling, maybe there's a way to keep it rolling.
I think it's rolling slow.
Right, so if we do some like summer activations at downtown events that will draw locals, because like something like the Furlings Fest that's coming up in 3 weeks might have some locals, but there'll be a lot of people from out of town. Maybe it's still worth setting up a table and saying like, hey, let's talk about preservation, but if there's any very local specific events, it might be worth just like having a specific preservation table. And like I said at the last week, I'm happy to.
I'll do it with you, because I would love to do it. But I think Shannon has a very good point too. I mean, we've seen what would happen outside of a historic district. That's why we have the field house. That doesn't match anybody's architectural ideas.
So one could argue that it does match our multifamily architectural design guidelines because those
It
are
does.
in the code.
It does, I agree. No, I agree. I agree.
Right, but it's not people's idea of what Idaho Springs is, and so that calls to question, should we change those as well? But that's a kind of an aside.
Can we get a schedule of when those events might be?
Is there a locals? Last year, there was like a locals thing, it was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Thursdays, this Minor Street Market is gonna be on Thursday evenings, is starting
Right,
June
but it's
11th.
not gonna be like block parties necessarily, it's gonna
Okay.
be like sort of different sort of activations, right?
Yeah, I was looking for block parties and I didn't see the block
They're not
parties.
doing like specific block by block parties, it's more smaller, but or like market.
The three place- the
So
three
I will
block
send
party.
out the schedule of events. And we could pick some sort of pre-casual ones, so we don't get a ton of people coming to give their opinion. I mean, we want them, but I don't want like 100 people in 2 hours, I want like 100 people in 8 hours.
Just get it over with. Let's invite them all here. Tell them we're gonna do a historic district, see how many people show up.
That's true.
Cause that's the problem, is a lot of folks, I have a lot of neighbors that never go to Minor Street, never will go to Minor
Right.
Street. But if you told them that they were gonna be in a historic district, they would definitely come to City Hall.
This could be a good activation for the hose houses, is we open up the doors and put a table in there and it's like. That's
I like
I'll hang out
that
with
too.
those.
Very much.
They never open, that could be an idea.
Oh, isn't Dennis open those every year? Does he open the main one?
The main one definitely is open like on weekends and things, but the other two don't really get open.
I'll
much.
help you open those this weekend, the weekends, like, I love those houses.
If you just set up a table, have some information, it could be fun.
Could be an AMA. Okay, I just wanted to discuss that in general updates because I do want us to be active again this summer, or at least help Dylan, because Dylan, I think, made some serious inroads last summer. Is there anything else in general updates that anyone on the committee would like to bring up?
The new plans for the minor street apartment that were in the packet. Was that this week's meeting?
So
That was
last
last week's meeting.
month,
I'll
Just encouraging folks to take a look,
I
that's
will
all.
let Dylan take some of this. I have thoughts, but
the minor street apartments have officially submitted their final development plan application for an affordable housing project at the old Carlson at 1300 Colorado Boulevard. So that's an update since that meeting last Monday. So now it's like officially a public process. So I can, I don't have like the plans on the website. It doesn't really host like a huge set of plans, but I have them here at City Hall and can.
I thought I saw them on the website.
Well, those were like preliminary drawings.
That's all
I mean,
people need to see.
they were mostly there, right, because they submitted like, that's a need. But technically, those were preliminary and only included like architectural renderings and like a site plan, and now they have their official full everything. So,
Does the developer have his lytic?
not yet.
that's what they're applying
He was
for.
coming, he came last Monday in order to talk about that housing tax credit application, like he had to formally say, I'm applying for this many units and this much money in tax credits, so that he can then put together the application, which is due at the end of June for the round he's going for, and we told him, we're probably not going to have this done by that time, so you should just come to another meeting and declare this and then formally submit afterwards, so we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of things up in the air, right? Like they may not get approved for funding, which means they can't do the project. The city could approve or deny it, and they still could be not funded, right? So that's what will happen there.
Can we also, in anticipation of that, just get a general idea of where HPRC comes into this as far as buffer zone? I've had questions about that.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to, well, you're going to have slightly less time to review it, but I am going to send it to you for a referral.
Okay.
I sent it out on Thursday, and so you'll get it on Wednesday, so you missed a few days to review it, but we had talked about giving HPRC a referral because of the buffer zone.
For a comment, but we don't have any ability to decide anything.
Right, yeah, like HPRC doesn't get to take action or make a formal recommendation, but we can provide, same with like PD or fire or engineering, we can make a recommendation and make comments that say, hey, we think it meets this or it doesn't meet this, and here's what we think will make the application better and all of that, so. I'll send it to you as the chair first, and then if you want to, discuss with anyone else, feel
Can we
free.
send it to the whole committee or does it mean?
I guess we could, I mean, it's public. Like, it's a public process, so I
Okay.
could send it to everyone, but,
Okay,
so I can do that, happy to. I'll put it into like a Dropbox link and.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then.
So yes,
everyone
that's
should-
coming.
Everyone should send comments to Lisa so that referral comments come from the chair. I think that'd be better than saying like.
yeah, do not get reply all, please. No reply alls. Send it back to me and I'll send them to Dylan. All right. Then that moves us into new business and we are going to move into the public hearing COA 26-001. I'm going to call this public hearing open at 6:19 p.m. This is a request for a certificate of appropriateness at 1921 Virginia Street, zoned R1, to construct a wooden ramp at the front entrance of the existing structure. The commission is required by law to hold a public hearing on this item. The order of this hearing is as follows. I will invite the city staff to give a presentation. I will invite the applicant to provide any comment they wish. I will invite public comment. Any questions from the commission may be asked and discussed. I will close the hearing and then we'll ask for the commission for a motion on the certificate of appropriateness. Are there any questions about the process before we begin? Excellent. I now open the public hearing. Okay, I just opened the public hearing already. It's 6:19. Got it. City staff, I went backwards. City staff, please start us.
Sure, okay, so as you mentioned in the title, this is COA review for a wooden exterior entry ramp at the entrance of Simon Lutheran Church Building at 1921 Virginia Street. Historically, the access has just been a concrete staircase, and there's been no accessible entry point for visitors. So that's the goal, is to create that. The key historical features is the church was formally dedicated in 1897. That's in our period of significance. There's been some renovations over the years. When this was nominated for as a local historic site in 2007, I got some details, including the expansion of rock walls and an exterior staircase being added in the 1970s and 1980s. There's an expansion to the basement and some renovations. Our historical resources survey plan indicates it's late Victorian architecture. So I reviewed it against our criteria for approval from section 21-104F. In general, this is a locally designated structure, so it's contributing. I think the key thing that staff's review was this is a permanent addition, but it's not a. But we've kind of talked about this before. If the ramp were to be removed, we don't believe it would have a lasting impact on the structure. So that was one thing that we talked about previously. That's interesting. It's like it's an addition to the property. It's affixed to the ground and to the front of the building, but it could be removed without materially adversely affecting the structure's historic quality. Also, we talked about whether it obscured historic features. Staff, based on ITS bulletin and guidelines from NPS, interpreted as being likely to not obscure historic features. And then the other sort of benefit, I guess, of this project is it does create an accessible entry to the building, which is helpful for maintaining use into the future. So that's another benefit of the project. The only thing I noted here that maybe has an impact on the site overall is just that it's, the building is so beautifully painted and the ramp is unpainted at the moment, and so that makes it sort of stand out. But I think if maybe it were painted in the future, it could perhaps better fit with the overall historic character of the site. I guess that's it for me. I recommend approval. I didn't have any sort of conditions except one, which is that there's been some back and forth about some fear from city staff that the ramp and maybe even the concrete staircase encroaches on city right of way. And so we will need to execute a license agreement. We figured we'd take it here first to make sure it meets requirements before going forward with that. But the condition would be that we still do need to execute that with city council before it's officially approved, I guess, to remain in that location. But from an HPRC standpoint, that's not incredibly relevant to the question at hand.
Okay. All right, at this point, actually, you are welcome to share whatever you'd like to share.
Eric, hello, Eric, hello. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Eric Nordine, 3189 Fall River Road, Idaho Springs, Colorado.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just, appreciate the, historical group here, taking a good long look at this, making sure that we're doing everything on the up and up. I realize that kind of rushed to get this thing up just because of the, really it was more because of the damage that was done to the bottom concrete step during the construction or the rerouting of Virginia Street. And I have found no drawings to show that it impedes on the city right away, so I'm not quite sure where we need to go with that. If we need to sit down with city council, I'll be more than happy to do that. But it does provide, it has provided easy access for our members. We are an aging congregation. And it's been a blessing to have it there versus trying to access it from before the access was right at the street. It would ice up and all those things. The only thing that it can't be solved here is just that the curb that they put in there really inhibits anybody being able to bring a wheelchair or anything through there. And I'm not quite sure where we go with that. I think I need to probably sit with city council on that.
City council and maybe Ed.
Okay,
Well-
well, we've had conversations with them, just don't know. I mean, it's an obvious hazard. But other than that, that it's been a blessing and it was just something I wanted to give as a legacy back to the church where I was, I've been going to that church, I was confirmed in that church and all that. So it was my own doing that this came to be. So I appreciate any consideration that you have for approving this.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment at this point?
The curb, we're just talking about really at the end of the ramp, right? Well, it's just that bottom of the ramp. Well, they put that large asphalt. Yeah, I know it's all for drainage and all that good stuff. I appreciate that because we own the property next to us and it'll keep water going over that hillside and eroding that wall too, so. We'll get it sorted out. I mean, I believe we'll get it sorted out.
Any other questions from the commission?
Yes, has the building official looked at the plan?
Building official has said that he believes it likely needs it.
Okay,
So that could be another condition perhaps, but to date, there's not been a building permit for the construction approved.
okay. Because there might be a couple of issues that come up, and I think as long as the building official looks at it, I think. One question would be do you know, was the ramp design strong enough for someone who's like in an electric wheelchair in terms of taking that kind of weight?
Yeah, what we did is we referenced, the city actually has a pretty good website when it comes to those things, and we followed all the guidelines for the porch itself, and then we overbuilt the ramp itself. I don't know what the pounds per square inch is, but it's got 5 runners and then everything is 2x8 or 2x10. And I don't know how to I don't know how to measure that.
Yeah, no, as long as the building official's gonna look at it, that's fine. And I think the other one would be whether or not anything in terms of guardrails on the sides. And again, if the building official is gonna look at that, there's no need to make that a condition. It's the whole thing about very small children falling off the side because of how wide the openings are. But again, that's a building official type of thing. Right. I was going to comment when we do get to a motion, several points that are worth mentioning in a motion is that in what we're doing in terms of historic preservation also bears a relationship with making buildings accessible to the public and recognizing there's real limitations as to where you could put a ramp into this building. And then there's also a relationship to the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, which basically says is that in the same way you want to accommodate people who maybe have disabilities, not to put unreasonable burdens upon the use of religious buildings. So I think those are worth mentioning as those are unique to this situation that maybe if it was a commercial enterprise, that would be a different case, but I think it's worth mentioning those as things that are unique to this application.
Well, I think though, disability access is unique to almost all of our historic buildings. I know when we did the literary festival a couple of years ago, we had a presenter who was in a wheelchair who could not access everything that there was to access because of the buildings. There was absolutely no way to, I mean, we only have what, 2 buildings downtown that have an elevator, the library and another one,
The senior center has one.
the senior center. I didn't think there were
And I
like,
think the opera house.
yes, so,
But anyway, I think I just bring these up in terms of, these are points that actually would support a motion in favor of that. It is making it easier for handicapped people to get in the building. It also is recognizing that we're not trying to impose an unreasonable restriction on a religious building.
I would agree with that.
And I think the third point to mention is that, and someone has touched on in Dylan's memo, which I think was a good memo, is that this is something, because if it does encroach in the right of way, this would be relative, the way this has been designed, it would be very easy to reverse if it had to be for some reason. So I think that's also something that actually the national guidelines sort of talk about being able to reverse. If you're putting something in front of a building, even though, as Dylan has said, it doesn't obscure the front of the building, it's also easily reversible if it had to be.
I live near there and it definitely doesn't obscure too much of it. You can still see most of the side.
It's pressure treated lumber, you build it with, and you have no plans to paint it or stain it?
It went through the winter and it weathered really well. It could be, we could put a stain on it. I wouldn't suggest putting anything.
No.
Other
It
than-
sounds like a painter nightmare.
Yeah, but, I would be in favor of, if that will help is to find a appropriate stain. I mean, the trim is green. Is it like a forest green?
I think the main thing is just to help with maintenance over long term, whatever will help with the maintenance, since we don't have a paint requirement.
Yeah. But you did mention that, Gilly had mentioned that it would add to the
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics, if it was, that would be easy enough, but it would, it would be easy enough to do. I mean, we're
But we do
talking
try to, when we ask you to do things like this, we do try to not put an onerous burden on you. Because we don't want that. We want it to, maintain the historical look, but not at the, ridiculous cost to the landowner. Cause that's no fun for anybody. I also wanna say, when I look at the city's right of way, how much of the right of way are we, cause when I'm looking at the old picture, like this is the one that I'm looking at. The steps come right down to the curb and it looks like the church had gravel. I'll show you guys. It looks like the church had gravel all the way to the curb past the steps. So this looks like they were utilizing that space right up to that point. So how much of this,
Well, what I would say, and it's not necessarily relevant to the COA, is that, it has certainly been used by the church since its inception. But, so maybe there's something to be said for that. But, I've looked at Virginia Street project as built, and it shows like where they did back a curb versus property line, and there's a pretty substantial difference. The curb is several feet in front of actually the property line through most of Virginia Street on the south side. And so,
doesn't the south side go wicky wacky? Like it's kind of wonky. It's not a straight line.
well, the curb is quite funky. Definitely, the property line is much straighter.
Okay.
And that's where I've run into this problem of saying, certainly we're not going to, we would never question like the existing stairs that have been there for decades and decades, in one way or another. But adding a new improvement, that expands it. We just want to make sure that the church is legally covered should anything happen. Like, that's my real concern with it, but the problem with it is, like, I have a lot of information that shows, like, here's where the curb is, here's where the property line is. I'm reasonably certain that at least a portion of the new improvement goes beyond the property line, but we don't have like any surveys that show precisely where the improvements are. So it's been complicated for me, and I've tried to keep Eric out of it as much as possible, but Carmen and our attorneys have said that they do want to solve that, it at least confirm whether it's an issue or not, and if it is an issue, then we can solve it in the easiest way possible, because it's behind the curve that's been used for decades, but you don't want.
Did you look at the Sanborn maps?
That would be a good next step.
Because those were reasonably accurate. They're not guaranteed, but they were pretty accurate.
And it would, well, that's a good, I'll move forward with that, because that may shed some light on where the existing building footprint is in comparison to the property line, which would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't show the stoop, but should show the outline of the building.
Right, and it wouldn't show precisely curb line, but it would show.
It would show the property line
Property
with respect to the building.
Well, anyway, so I'm gonna look into those more, it's more on my end than Eric's.
An Erickson, or the COA.
Correct, yeah, the COA, again, you know, Andy, Carmen, they all said, like, we ought to make sure that this is approved or denied first before we even go down the road of like giving a license agreement on the off chance that's denied.
Okay. What further questions does the commission have? Hearing none, I will close the hearing at 6:36 p.m. All right, so at this point, I will take a motion on the certificate of appropriateness, and then we'll move into discussion. Bueller?
Do we need to cite our guideline?
So, make a motion on the request for certificate. Because
We don't need to cite the guidelines on that. I mean, because he already did it in the
Yeah.
report. All right. Okay. What am I doing? Move to approve certificate of appropriateness 26-001 at 1921 Virginia Street to construct a wind ramp at the front entrance of the existing structure.
Yeah, it's not a vote, just, okay. And now let's open it for discussion. Commissioners? Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, and I would propose to add a amendment to include findings in the motion. And as findings that the ramp does not obscure the view of the front of the building. Number one, number two, it's easily reversible. Number three is that it improves the handicap accessibility of the building in what is otherwise a difficult location.
I would agree with that. I find we do a lot of these because all of our buildings are, they're one-offs. They're all unique. What other discussions do you all have? Thoughts?
Just that, staff report suggested that, Dylan, you can tell me if I'm right, that the COA would include a condition that the right-of-way issue has to be resolved. Does that need to be part of the COA, or that's just something between the city right-of-way people?
It would be worth noting, it's not like a condition, it's just sort of, it's written, this is a place where someone could find it written down that, yes, we discussed this, so we don't forget it. So it's not a bad thing to just note this.
Okay.
I mean, if we're including your staff report, then it's already in there.
Right, yeah,
Well, I think this rises above that though, because this is the kind of point you'd want to pull out of the staff report, saying this is something that apparently the city attorney says we need to have this checked out.
Right, but not really relevant to what we're doing unless she specifically said it. needed to be, but-
I agree with that.
I'm just all
Not
for
a
keeping things
condition.
simple. if we
Well, but also
can.
that goes beyond our, like
Right.
our
Yeah.
scope on the HPRC, that has to go to the city. It's
Right.
noted in there. I do like Mike's addendums. I will say addendums 1 through 4. I have a feeling Wonder took them down.
I only have 3.
Me too. There's 4?
There were, I listed three.
Oh, I thought you listed 4.
Ramp does not obscure the view of the front of the building, ramp is easily reversible, and then the ramp improves the handicap accessibility of the building in an otherwise difficult location.
Okay,
I
that's
think the
what
rights
kinda
of way was
combine.
sort of a fourth unrelated.
The right of way was.
To that.
right away.
So perhaps for the right of way question and like any sort of building permit questions, we put on, could we create like a little certificate that says, you know, this approval is subject to other approvals as relevant.
Actually, you could take the second point I made, which about easily reversible, you could extend that to say, in case there is a right of way issue. Because that's the reason for mentioning that it is easily reversible. Well, it's 2 reasons, but that's.
I would say the standards are.
I think that's
That's
okay.
how.
That is okay to
would
me.
like to go forward with the motion.
Well, I like to keep us in our
And then we
lane
can-
too.
Yeah, it
Like, we
sounds
don't need to
like,
be in anybody else's lane.
and then it sounds like if a motion is made, that it could say with no conditions, but with the findings as discussed.
Yeah, the findings are, the real purpose is in case someone wants to challenge the decision.
Right.
If it ever goes to a judge, the judge is gonna want to know what were the findings this was based on.
It also, and this is just something that I have seen just in this commission, it also helps, well, why did you approve A, but you did not approve B? And I feel like a lot of our buildings have unique challenges or issues or whatever, however you want to phrase them, that each building gets unique consideration, even as we try to apply the laws consistently. Is there any other discussion? We all feeling good about this?
Yeah.
All right. So I would move that we approve the motion as amended with the findings.
So Erica made the motion, so now you would like to amend the motion?
The 3 points that I
The 3
made,
amend the motion with the 3 findings.
You would like to amend Erica's motion?
Yes, please.
which is basically to approve based on the following findings.
Second?
Do we have a second?
Go ahead, you were first.
Shannon,
I
second.
said, but you raised.
All in favor, please raise your right hand by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it. Motion passes. Thank you so much. Thank you for working with us with this. We
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
working with me. You made it very easy.
We have excellent staff. I'm gonna say that. We have excellent staff that works on this.
I will
We can
look,
talk about.
Close to where I live,
I
so.
will look into Sanborn maps and
Yeah.
things to see.
The one window on the right, it's really, really
You
nice.
say they're
Um,
pretty
especially
accurate
when I
for
moved here like 4 years ago.
location of buildings versus parking lots.
Yeah, they were usually pretty good about that because the maps were made for insurance companies.
Right.
So the insurance companies wanted to be careful about what it was they were insuring.
Well, and this is, if you look, this is that place on Virginia where it dips further to the south. Cause that always used to be a potential parking space when I lived up there. But if you look at the steps come right to that curve. They've always come right to that curve, even before the raised paving of Virginia. So,
Well, and it's very possible that I've made this more complicated for us than it's needed, for Eric and myself than it's needed, but.
No, that was my biggest thing was we built it on the same footprint that
the steps were on.
the steps were on, but
Right.
maybe those were encroaching and it just never got noticed back when we put it in.
We have found unfortunately that there tends to be some wiggle room with some of our property lines.
Right, well, and what I saw, like in the nomination form, and this is all on the side, like originally, when this was built, there's like a picture of the front, and it's actually like a ramp, not stairs, it kind of ramps down, and the ramp clearly wouldn't meet current ADA standards for ramp, it's just like a steep
Cause
ramp.
it's too steep.
Yeah, but it's, so the stairs came in at some point, but I don't know exactly when, it's like all of my pictures from, so.
Yeah, and at that time, that was the only access to the building. It wasn't,
True.
like we didn't have a basement in at that time.
Right.
So, yeah, it was the only way in.
even if there is an encroachment, it seems like a necessary, like you have to have an encroachment in order to access the building, like people can't just walk up a 2.5 foot, 3 foot step, you know, like. But it may come to bear that it's not needed at all, and then this is all kind of.
Yes, but I know.
Side quest for.
I know that Carmen appreciates you investigating this.
It'll be a good learning experience.
And if it does need to be fixed, you're gonna figure it out for the future. Someone else
Exactly.
has to.
Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
You can-
The next agenda item is for 1743 Minor Street. You guys both want to pull an extra chair up here?
Yeah, or David, you could move over
Yeah.
to.
That's okay. I'm over here.
Check, I don't have a secret Patty.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We can always.
My niece just graduated
nominate-
10 days ago. College.
It's medical. Good for
Yeah,
her.
it's weird.
Too bad softball. Oh, they showed you, right?
You know who it is. I know.
All right.
Last year's.
So I guess you can leave them all.
All right. Moving along.
Good, thank you.
The next agenda item is a public hearing on the request for a certificate of appropriateness, COA, at 1743 Minor Street. Construct a new entry door and window on the west side of the building and place mechanical equipment on the roof of the building. The commission is required by law to hold a public hearing on this item. The order of this hearing will be as follows. I will invite city staff to give a presentation and then invite the applicant to provide any comment they wish. Then I will invite public comment. And then there will be any questions from the commission at this time to be asked and discussed. The hearing will close and I will ask the commission for a motion on the certificate of appropriateness. Are there any questions on the process? All right, I now open the public hearing at this request for a certificate of appropriateness at 1743 Minor Street to construct a new entry door and window on the west side of the building and place mechanical equipment on the roof of the building at 6:47 p.m. All right, Dylan,
Sure,
it is
okay.
all you.
I've mentioned, this is 743 Minor Street. It's in the historic district, just east of where we're sitting now. It's on the very, very edge of the historic district. Building was constructed in 1938, so it's outside of our period of significance, and also the National Register of Historic Places nomination form identified this building as non-contributing to the historic district at the time. So, you know, based on those two facts, my review is reviewing it as though it were a non-contributing structure. So as mentioned, there's two elements to this work. The first is the installation of mechanical equipment on the roof that's necessary for the proposed kitchen installation. That's shown kind of a schematic drawing on page 2 of the report. This building did previously have mechanical equipment on the roof, but when they had, and that's shown in page 3, but this, that was when it was a restaurant before, but since that time, it was used for several other uses, and so that was all removed and remodeling occurred, and so adding that back. And then the second thing would be a new entry door and an updated window, replacing an existing window on the western facade of the building. So they're relatively minor, but changes based on our guidelines that do require staff not believe based on the criteria that it will adversely materially affect the historic quality of this building. Again, it's a non-contributing structure to the district. Also, the applicant has stated that they will match the door to the existing door as much as possible. So it'll match with what's there already. They also have stated they will paint the mechanical equipment and match current trim, or would be willing to screen it if that was a requirement. As far as the historic atmosphere and character of the district as a whole, given its location and the relatively minor nature of the proposed changes, staff don't believe that it will have a substantial adverse material effect on the atmosphere of the district as a whole. And it looks like in my report, I was trying to make another point, but only wrote the first 4 words of the sentence, so.
You
So
were
this,
interrupted.
I will agree with you, it is, there will be.
So, who knows? We, based on my review of our guidelines, the work seems to meet guidelines. And with that, we recommend approval as staff. I did put 2 conditions in here, maybe they're needed, maybe they're not. One be that the new door match the front door of the existing building to the maximum extent possible and matching materials found elsewhere in the district, and that roof mounted mechanical equipment be painted to blend in with surroundings, and shall be screened from view, perhaps it be either or. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. All right, Jill would like to speak, and we'll swear you in.
Please, state, if you're both gonna speak, name and address for the record.
Carla Boucher, 406 Silver Creek Road, Iowa Springs, 80452.
Kenny Coburn, 1743 Minor Street.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Well, I think everything Dylan said was right.
So I would like to add, I guess, the door itself facing on the west side is just more of an access to our lounge area, which will deter anybody from going out the front door, walking on the pathway, seeing how the police station is gonna be right across the street and opening up. So I'd probably best to keep it inside closed quarters. So I just wanted to add that in for that door. That would be more beneficial for the building itself, for problem children, if you will.
Well, keep people, I noticed that in the report that said keep them off the sidewalk, and I think if you keep people on your property versus on the sidewalk, that's probably better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we've talked to the guys for the fan and everything, and there's no issue with painting the outside structures, or as Dylan said, I mean, we'll put up a screen if we want to put up a screen. I mean, it doesn't matter to us. It's gonna matter if we don't have that stuff.
Okay. Any questions from the commission at this point?
Can you tell us what you're doing with the building?
Oh.
No, it's a secret.
I'm trying to make it into a cigar bar, so we'll have some food, obviously, be serving food. It'd be a lounge area out there, smoke cigars, we can't smoke inside in the state of Colorado anywhere. So I'll just have to accommodate that for outside, which is nice, it's right on the creek. It's great.
What are your plans for the patio area?
Which one?
The one that's down closest to the creek, is that going to be?
We're actually gonna concrete that in.
Okay.
We got a couple of bids, but we only got one in right now, but anyway.
And that's not part of this, I'm just being nosy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I
and
was just
we
making
have footers. We're gonna set footers up for a pergola, one that can be taken down, put up, taken down, however it needs. So we're always in good standings with you guys, but that's, yeah, so some gas fire pit down there. Seating, just lounge seating. Make it as comfortable as possible for everybody to stay.
Well, it's nice because we don't really have anywhere that sits by the creek,
Yeah,
you know.
and we wanted
that's-
to bring it up a little bit. Obviously railings are gonna be, we'll be putting those railings in. But at least you'll be able to see the river. or
We'll see it
creek.
here, that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it.
Yeah. That's the plan.
Are you gonna keep the residents downstairs?
Actually, we
Yeah.
moved in. We moved
I asked that
in.
same exact question.
Refrigerator box under a freeway somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's livable. It was livable, it is livable. It was different. The water damage under there was.
Well, the last people that looked at that we had like, what, 2 meetings on that one,
Oh, the
where
distillery.
the distillery wanted to go down. I was like, you guys know you're right next to the creek, right?
Yeah, that is the flood.
Yeah.
Flood range or flood zone.
Mhm.
That is part of the flood. It's like, wow, so we'll probably be building up a little bit maybe on that retaining wall.
Yeah, and even on
Okay.
the seating downstairs, it'll be it's gonna be done where it's got the appropriate drainage and it'll drain
Yeah.
into, there's a lower area there that'll all then be pumped. So we won't be flooding anything.
Taking extra measures on that one.
No, that's a good thing, because we had a lot of discussion about the last people that were interested in that place.
And everything right now just flows right to that.
Right to that
To that.
door right over
apartment.
there in the
I'm
corner.
like, ooh, so all this rain has been interesting, we're learning.
Oh, no.
Totally understand that. What other questions do we have? For Dylan or the applicant?
Seems like the mechanical stuff on the roof is mostly towards the back of the building.
No, it's right there.
It used to be towards the back.
It used to be towards the back, but when they took it down to do the roof, they just literally took it off. And when we went in to look at it, all the ceiling tiles from the roof were now in the side, the exhaust on the inside, so that has to go away.
Oh.
So
Oh, okay.
the only logical way to do it was to move it to the, closer to the front, because the back, if you look at the building, there are multiple different levels. It's been built,
Few times.
can I say the word janky? So it's been, and so
It's like the side of it.
the expense of putting the exhaust back where it was, because the ceiling's like 2 feet lower inside,
Yes.
is it's exponential. So we can move it forward where the ceiling is 2 feet higher and it'll be more reasonable, and it'll still solve the same purpose, you know, all the safety measures, all the things that come with those big exhausts, the fire suppression and all that kind of stuff will still be there.
I'm glad you asked that, Shannon, because I was looking at that picture too, going, it looks like it's come forward
It
just
has.
a little bit, but
It's still facing this parking lot, right? I mean, it's still visible. It will be.
any other questions?
Dylan, were those recommended conditions or?
Yeah, but again, I suppose they're up for discussion. I don't know if they're necessary conditions, but it seems like the best way to make sure there won't be impacts on the historic atmosphere of the district.
So-
The painting is actually the painting of the equipment, I think, which the applicant has said they were going to do anyway, I think. There is a design guideline about it, either to screen it or to paint it. And so, that's
Right.
probably a good one to mention.
Right, and to include that as a condition.
Right, and that was in the non-contributing section, that's 30B.
Painting or screening, so you can kind of choose whatever.
Right, and it says either, so that's really up to the applicant as to which they choose to do.
Do you have a preference?
I couldn't
Well,
care
the
less.
trim is black, so I would figure just black,
Yeah,
because the trim is black on the building.
so's the roof though, so if we screen it, that's gonna be
It's
black too,
on,
so-
yeah.
No, I almost feel like it's gonna be worse if you try to screen it or paint it. Otherwise, you'll just not, you won't think about it.
Yeah.
well, it's very bright metallic silver, so it's
They might
gonna stand out if
For a
we
little
don't
while.
paint it.
I'll get used to it,
Yeah.
right?
So, but we don't, I mean, you know, we're just here to please. If y'all want us to paint it, we'll paint it. If you want a screen, we'll put a screen up. Honestly, it makes no difference to us. Aesthetically, doesn't matter to us. It's kitchen. It's gotta be there, so.
It could be just left broader to either be screened or
Or
painted,
painted,
because that leaves it up to the applicant that has their choice.
because if it says now surrounding building and shall be screened, it should be painted to blend in or shall be screened. Like, I think an or on that one would be good.
Okay.
Because I was thinking, isn't the roof black?
Yes,
So if you paint it black or you screen it black,
It's
still
black.
nice
Yeah.
black.
it's
Yeah.
just gonna be a piece of the roof.
Yeah,
Mhm.
blending fine.
And the staff comment regarding the doors, that's more or less generally consistent with section 15 of the non-contributing.
Right, and I had added that in there just because at the time that we had put together the application, they weren't sure exactly what, like, they don't already have a door spec'd. So we couldn't say, yes, that door is good, or no, that door is totally, going to ruin the historic district. I mean,
And what we found with the doors on that building, every one of them is different.
Oh,
Whether
yeah.
it's the width or
Welcome.
the height or, I mean,
Oh, not that problem.
so, somebody tried to kick in our door right after we bought it. And
Replaced
we
it.
searched for a while for a door to
Yeah.
fix
Yeah.
it.
The marketplace is really great for those weirdo
Yeah.
sized doors, like.
Yeah.
I found the 29-inch door.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
and I suppose it could also be that if we don't wanna put the condition, I've reviewed their building permits and approved the building permit, but we need to add the door to the scope as a revision, so I could review the door as part of that. If you didn't wanna condition it, but the condition just perhaps could ensure that we take it into consideration.
What does the relevant guideline say?
that is,
Is it 15?
It's in the non-contributing section, it's in 15. And
Well, there's no opening there.
word. Shall be similar to those used historically. Secondary entrances are encouraged on larger buildings.
when you replace the door, the front door, is it still the one that has the 2 vertical panels in the window?
We haven't replaced the front door.
No, that one's the same.
It's the same. It's
It's more
this
like
side
a
door
side
over
door.
here.
Okay.
It goes straight into the kitchen.
Okay,
And the whole point of the new door is, I mean, we don't want people walking down the sidewalk, and we darn sure don't want people walking through the kitchen to try to get out there. So there's only one more place to put a door,
okay.
and that's right there where that window is right now.
And it's fenced in right now.
Yeah, it's fenced in. It's totally off public. I mean,
There's 2 windows, I think a window. I don't think there's 2 windows. I think there's a window
It's
there
like a
right now.
wide.
It's a big
It's a
one.
big
Yeah.
window.
And so the footprint of the new window and the door is basically the same, it's just a bigger opening to accommodate a door instead of a window.
we were thinking about a garage door, but I guess that's out. Just saying.
We looked at each other when you guys were talking about garage door, I'm like.
Oh, you weren't kidding.
No, we were kidding.
We are kidding.
No, we were kidding.
It came up in a discussion for way future, if that was ever a possibility, but that's for way down the road.
Yeah.
That's like phase 4.
We're gonna need to go ahead and get open and make money before we start worrying about all that kind of stuff.
Dreams.
That is phase infinity.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? All right, I'm going to close the hearing at 7:03. And so I will ask for a motion on the COA, and we'll move into a discussion. Does anyone need a cheat sheet? Okay.
Make a motion to approve or to discuss.
We can say to approve because we will discuss it and then
Okay.
vote yea or nay on it.
All right, motion to discuss a request for a certificate of appropriateness at 1743 Minor Street to construct a new entry door and window on the west side of the building and place mechanical equipment on the roof of the building.
We'll do it with the following conditions. 1 and 2 from the staff recommendation.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and recommend we include as conditions the 2. And I think, again, with saying the finding is that finding that it is consistent with the guidelines in 15 and
30D.
30D.
and 30D. Based with the conditions, with the conditions of approval, it would be consistent with 15 and 30D.
And wonder with condition number 2, it's or painting or the screen.
Got it. Screened or painted.
Yes. I will take a second. All right, we have a second.
I'm sorry.
I took a second. Mark.
Mr. Clark.
All right, we are open for discussion. Thoughts?
So condition one is for the door and the window?
So the new door proposed for the west facade of the building shall match the front door of the existing building to the maximum extent possible, matching materials found elsewhere in the historic district.
I don't even know if we need
I
to
would-
match the front because it's already existing and not historic.
And I'd have to change it to generally match. In case there's a problem with finding an exact match.
Oh, there will be.
Yeah, well, I would feel more comfortable with Dylan reviewing whatever door they select.
As long as it stays within the width footprint of that window.
Yep.
Okay.
Not much further to go beyond.
So then would that just be removing that condition?
The new door proposed for the west facade, as per review by community planner. We just kicked that right back into your.
That's fine.
I'm trying to imagine the door that would not be good, and I'm struggling, but I'm sure there's one out there.
Would be like a full glass door that.
A flat metal
Yeah,
door. Flat.
Yeah, we're not gonna put like a glass door on it
Door.
that looks like Kroger or
yeah, no,
whatever.
Like pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
Door to be approved by city planner. Essentially would be the condition
instead of, yeah,
prior to installation. Instead of the first condition and then the second condition as written, but with screened or.
yeah.
Okay.
Is the heat just not on in here? Is that what it is?
I was wondering the
I'm
same thing.
freezing.
We have all
We all like
those
stars.
all day in there. It's freezing in here. It's cold
Okay, I
outside.
just,
Hey, it's our tax
It's
dollars, we're
colder
saving
than
money.
here.
we are saving some money.
Oh, that was.
I'm freezing in here.
It's cold in here.
Is there any further discussion, any further questions? Hearing none, let's take a vote. All in favor of approving the COA as amended, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Congratulations, you have your COA. my
Thank you very
friends.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Looking
Yeah,
forward
so-
looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you all there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all very
The
much.
scary part, that is the scary part.
As you guys know, if you have questions, Dylan and the staff are really great, to help you.
They
find your
are.
way
They,
through
they
this.
have been awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You both have been very, very helpful.
Thank you guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Have a great
Have a
night.
good night.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 10, any old business? As Patty is not here, I would recommend that we move Patty's nomination to the next meeting. I checked my text. I don't have a text from her, so I don't know what's happened.
Hopefully she's okay.
I hope so. I'm gonna text her and be like, where you been? What's going on? Any other old business? Anything else to bring in? Now is the time.
Nothing from me currently, though there's some work session type items that remain ongoing, like the comprehensive plan and all of that, so. I'll bring those forward as needed.
And you will send out, like the list of when you would like to do things?
I'll send out the list for events. The other thing I'll do that tomorrow. And, I'm continuing to work on the comprehensive plan and I plan to publish like a draft of the whole thing, hopefully like in June. And then give the public and boards and planning commission like a month to review that and provide comments. And then the goal is to have it approved in August at the latest, so that we can then roll into implementation. And so, that's the update there.
Sweet, thank
But
you.
I'll send it out specifically to like HPRC and sites and facilities and planning commission and say, please review if you'd like, and you can just review relevant sections, or you can look at everything since you're all, important members of the community, so. But it's pretty long. I mean, the original one is like 180 pages. This one won't be any shorter than that, so.
Is there anything else from the commission?
I remembered something.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of the hose house, could we have a window workshop at one of the hose houses? Cause, well, I was gonna do it in my yard, but now I've put too much stuff in my yard, so I can't do it anymore. And the hose house would be great. And then people might drive by and see that and be like, what are we doing?
I mean, probably the western hose house makes the most sense, right? Cause that's right on Colorado Boulevard, there's
More
some
parking.
open space around it.
It's closer to my
We can
house, I
open
think.
the door. Because I think like the one over on
Yeah.
Virginia Street, it's pretty tight in there with residences, and the one on the central hose house could work. We have that whole big yard, but that's farther from the house, so.
So
yeah,
when would
we-
you like to do it?
Do it. It stops ringing.
Well,
Need more
that,
time.
and that route, that hose house currently is empty.
Mhm.
There's nothing in it. And so you could have some like, you could open it up and sort of, there's not much to see inside, but
Could we maybe, oh gosh, I hate asking this, but I'm just gonna ask it anyway. Could we maybe get like a little poster board printout of the history of the hose house if we're going to open it up and do a meeting? Can you please have a poster board that we drag out and put on a stand so that if people are there, they can see it?
of course.
You know, maybe some old pictures. I've seen some really fabulous pictures of some of the fire laddie crews in front of the various hose houses.
Mustaches for days.
Oh my God, mutton chops and mustaches.
Let's see, other, well, let's just work together on when you wanna do that, and I can.
Well, as soon as you know,
Get the
can we?
word out.
Yeah, let's.
Cause
because I wanna
last time,
publicize
I
it.
don't think I publicized it much. Like you had done some publication of it, and that was it, so
And it was very casual. but
We'll
now I'm like,
publicize it
We're gonna
and
do it, we
we'll-
should do it.
we'll get some information there
I have
about
been,
historic preservation, like designating your home, and we can, do all that stuff.
Then we can be like, it's not so hard to fix your windows.
I have been taking your name in vain by saying, hey, I have somebody on HPRC who is a really smart lady with the windows. You need to talk to her. You need to talk to Erica, you need to talk to her.
I'm probably walking by their houses cursing their windows. Like, why wouldn't they paint them?
The other old business item that we can talk about is that America 250 tour, like multimedia tour grant. All that contract is now finally finalized. It took them forever, but that's all right. Our plan is to have it rolled out by like the fall festival this year, so like early October. So
We're not doing
we'll-
rapid grass, just so you'll know.
You can tell me later.
I
I'll tell
don't
you
know the,
I know some of it.
I don't know all the details, but anyway, it's, so the city through the Business Community Promotions Board has this, new kind of social media guy that's contracted through them, and he really likes history, but he also really likes animating historic photos and things. So he's like, what we should do is we should use like whatever sort of AI to like take old photos from the sites and animate them and tell it we're a scene from when it was in its heyday. So he went ahead, and I'll send this out. He animated the Charlie Taylor bust at the water wheel, and it tells a story. It's kind of interesting.
It's very entertaining.
But it's, there's a lot you can do with that and to tell the oral history and things. So he has some ideas. Like he found this picture of someone panning for gold in Clear Creek in like the early 1900s, and it's like, we can animate this. So it's like George Jackson first discovering gold and telling that whole story. So it could be strange, or it could be very cool. It could be a really cool way of like elevating just like, because we'll still have like old historic photos and the history of how it was preserved and all of that on the site, but if we could have that sort of animated element and kind of bring this history to life as is.
Have we talked to the Historical Society too? Because I know Dan has done a lot of work in trying to organize their photos. They've got like photos coming out of their ears.
That's the next step.
Every time
because-
somebody passes, their photos go to the Historical Society,
Mm.
for good or ill.
Yeah, the goal is to set up a meeting with anyone who's interested in this group and then Historical Society to kind of say, hey, like, here's like the sites we're thinking of. We want really cool stories and photos and things from those sites. And then you can kind of build it from there. And it'll be this interesting repository on our website and whatnot for people walking around town.
It's awesome.
So.
Anyone else?
Were you able to check with the state, about that one report that maybe has detailed information on each of the buildings in the historic district?
Oh, was that in our 2022 report?
I don't think it's mentioned there. It's mentioned when there was a revisit of the historic district a decade ago or so. It's cited in there. They mentioned that there's this information available. It looks like from the way this one citation is written, it's like there's information on each building. And the reason I'm asking is that I've put the 2022 survey stuff into the GIS database, so that information, you can make different maps with it now. But there are some inconsistencies on addresses, which would be good to check out between what the survey shows and what the assessor shows and what the original nomination map showed. So it would be good to know, to try and tie down which building they were talking about regardless of its address.
Well, that's actually true. When I lived over here on Wall Street, the house across from me was taken from the two ends of the old BB Hotel. But my old house is listed as used to be the old BB. I was like, nope, that's not mine. That's not mine at all. Like, I know the history of that, but it is not listed accurately. I mean, I would have loved it if my home had been from the two pieces of the BB Hotel.
It's basically several buildings on the south side of Minor Street where there are these inconsistencies. I'm overall, from going through it, and there was only one address I found in the maybe 500 that she did that was actually wrong. She just flipped. In one location, she had the even and odds on the opposite sides of the streets of where they should have been.
Okay.
Well, to answer your question, I had reached out. It kind of bounced around to a couple people and then I didn't follow up, so I have to follow back up.
Well, we know you have nothing else to do. You're just sitting over here eating bonbons, right?
It's sort of stuff that's more interesting to me than a lot of the other stuff on my plate, so.
But can you imagine if we actually had a historic district of the workload would be for you?
Listen, I lived in Annapolis. If you lived in the Annapolis Historic District, you would be hating your life. That was,
Although Georgetown doesn't, they don't even have planning staff, technically.
I'm sort of their on-call kind of person for
that's love-hate going on over there.
for zoning and subdivision application, but that's it.
Well, I was just in Las Vegas this past weekend and I thought about how crazy the job would be as a planner in Las Vegas. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be, I don't know, but like they have that big like Hard Rock casino going up right now and I can't imagine you doing building plans for that.
Maybe you're just better suited for here, which we like. You're not getting away.
And the chairwoman for Annapolis was at the state conference a few years ago. She was kind of interesting to talk to.
They make Georgetown look like weekend warriors. Oh, yeah. I lived down in the historic district. The things that you could not do and you lived there and you pay property taxes.
There was one year on their website, everything was done kind of like a cookbook. Literally.
Hmm. They're interesting there, but you know what, they preserve the heck out of that the downtown, like you're not getting anything in there that doesn't fit in their period of significance. Is there anything further from the commission? Then I will end, what time is it? Closing.
7:18.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, I'll move to adjourn. Shannon seconded it. All in favor?